everyone. I'm Angela Clark. I'm going to start this over. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Clark, and I'm the author of Awakening from Unconscious Resentment, Learning to Uncover the Hidden Saboteurs that are hindering your life and relationships. So I thought I would just make this fun, and I just went and picked a spot in here, chapter 11 and page 202 of my book, and I just thought I would read it to you and we could talk about it a little bit, and I would love to hear your comments as well. So here you go. I hope you enjoy this little reading, okay? So God loves the entirety of his creation, from the tiniest sparrow to the whales in the ocean. If he watches over and loves the sparrow just as surely, he cares for and loves us more. Even, in fact, scripture tells us so. You're not alone in the process of letting go of your resentment and taking back your life. God will go before you and prepare the way. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame scorch you. And that's Isaiah 43, verse 2. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will guide you with my eye. Psalm 32, verse 8. When you ask God to help you, he will be there in a heartbeat. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble, it says in Psalm 46, verse 1. I think of how I was at my wits' end, so convinced that God was disgusted with me and hated me, and yet somehow I finally found the strength to cry out and demand that he help me, or I just won't make it, I told him. How I cried out to him. But you said that you would put the will and the action into us, or I actually said into me. But it actually says, for it is God who works in you to both will and to do according to his good pleasure. Philippians 2, verse 13. But I can't do it. This is what I told God, okay? And his help came within hours. It was like he was just waiting there with bated breath, just waiting for me to ask with sincerity and humility and from the heart. And then bam, there he was. He was there for me in a moment alongside me. And after that, the changes happened so quickly. I know God already knew the timing of that very moment, the breaking point, and he already had everything in order, ready to go, waiting for me to ask. And that preparation included the two women I met at the grocery store within hours of my prayer, and my husband-to-be, Dan, who was crying out to God at the same time, asking to meet someone to love. I don't know where she is, God, but I know you do. I've been looking in all the wrong places. Please help me. And within a day or so afterwards, Dan and I met at a training center. He came alongside me, and soon we became husband and wife. It took about a year, actually, but that's pretty quick. Being able to call on God is an amazing privilege that's bestowed on us all equally and for always. Quote, call to me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. End quote, Jeremiah 33, verse 3. Furthermore, he has promised that he will listen. Then you will call upon me and go and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29, verse 12 through 13. I think that's really important about, really being, when you seek me with all your heart, really being sincerely wanting to get some help, really like from the bottom of the depth of your soul. Anyway, years ago, I was living in the mountains with 3 children in tow, and I wasn't able to work because I needed to stay home with them. Our second car broke down, so I was in the mountains and homebound. It was a hard time in my life. I felt the strong need to know my purpose at that time and to cry out to God, asking him to reveal himself. I remember crying out to him, Lord, when I pray to you, it honestly feels like I'm praying to a blank wall. I need to know that you hear me. I need to know that you are real and that you truly care. Show me, help me. Man, I received such a quick answer to those questions. People were immediately brought into my life who were so wonderful and set such a great example. A special women's group that I became involved in and from which I felt so much support and learned of the deep things of God, truths in the Bible that just made God come alive to me. I was being divinely guided and I knew it. We were having a really hard time financially at that time. Remember the incident I told you about in chapter 2 when I had only $30 to spend at the grocery store? Again, I prayed and asked God to help and guide me and make that money stretch as far as possible. I picked up a bag of potatoes cheap. I got all the real essentials, and I really felt blessed. I found some great sales and things that were really healthy that would last the week, and it felt so good. He really helped me while I was shopping. I would come across something that I wanted to buy, but just couldn't. Remember, I wanted to buy a can of frozen orange juice and had to pass on that because I talked about this in a previous chapter, okay? I saw some fish on sale and realized we hadn't eaten any fish for a while and really wished I could afford that. Maybe in the future, I thought. So about the orange juice, let's see, I wanted to read that part. While I was shopping, I came across something I wanted to buy, but just couldn't. Remember, I wanted to buy a can of frozen orange juice and had to pass on that. And then, like I said, and some fish on sale and realized we hadn't had any fish for a while and really wished I could afford that. Maybe in the near future, I thought. I wanted to buy some paper towels, but didn't have enough for that this time either. There were a few other things I passed by, but each time I was just full of joy, knowing that I was loved and God had helped me stretch that $30 like I never could have dreamed. I felt so loved and supported by him that day. My heart was full to the brim because I knew God had taken notice of my prayer and came to my rescue, pointing out all the good things to buy, including things that were on sale so that I could stretch my budget, and even pointed out the things that were on sale so that I could make the money go a long way. I did it. I should say, God help me. So I got home and my sister called and said that she wanted to bring some things up to the mountains where we lived, and I invited her up. She brought in a few bags of groceries and a box. I started looking in the bags and, there was some orange juice, and no way. She brought up some paper towels that I needed. Sis, what's this? I started opening the smaller box, and inside were frozen fish fillets, a box full of them. Probably 20 pounds of fish were in that box. I asked her about it, and she said that at the restaurant where she worked, the Black Eyed Pea, the fish fillets had to be thrown out because they'd gone out of date and couldn't be used, but they'd been stored in their freezer and were truly still good. These were expensive fillets. I wish I could remember the other items that I had seen at the grocery store that day that I had my eye on and wished I could have bought, but I can tell you this. There was absolutely not one single thing that I had seen at the store and had wished for that God had not seen to it that she brought up. Not one. And I had not mentioned anything about my need or wishes to her in any way. She just knew we were struggling and wanted to help. One other thing, because things were so tight, I was trying to save money and chose to hang my cloth diapers on the line in our yard in the mountains to dry, which is good because the sun would bleach any stains on the diapers totally out very well and quickly. The only problem I was having was that I had broken a bunch of my clothespins and I really needed more. While I was hanging the clothes and diapers with the clothespins I still had, I prayed to the Lord that I could somehow find some cheap clothespins somewhere soon to hang my diapers. That may seem like small and silly, but at the same time, every single dollar counted. And I just could not afford them at this time, period. But yet I really did need them. So that's why I needed them cheap, right? The next day, an elderly woman from the church I was attending stopped by and said she was getting rid of some things and knew that I hung my clothes out to dry and wondered if I wanted her old bag of clothespins since she wasn't hanging her clothes out anymore due to her age. I looked at her in shock. No way. God had heard my cry. He even cared about my need for some clothespins. And I didn't have to pay for them. It was a big bag. It was so cool. Well made with a hook so you could just hang the big bag of pins at the end of the line, making it so easy for me. And I didn't have it that way before. This was the coolest thing. Anyway, I just felt so loved. God really, really cared. I could tell you more, but you get the idea. God watches and cares over us when we simply ask for what we need and are in a thankful heart attitude. I think once he started showing me that he cared, I started believing it and feeling more supported and loved, which in turn made me feel more and more thankful and filled with joy that the God I had been taught was so mean and scary was actually very sensitive to my need as well as thoughtful. And so my faith grew. I then started asking for more love, more patience. Oh, I needed that with my kids and the ones I babysat. More peace, more self-control, more love, more joy. And then I noticed how I was given more of those things. And the opportunity to try out my new measure of patience or peace or whatever came soon after. I would practice using it, the next bit of peace, for example, and kept asking for more, and it just kept growing and growing. It was so very real. One thing built upon another. My faith and especially the love grew so much that truthfully, I couldn't even contain it all. It just oozed out of my life, my actions, my words, and toward my husband when he would come home from work, to my children and the love and the ones I babysat, and to my community. There was just so much of it. I just couldn't give it all away if I tried. Again, it was just I was overflowing with it. It was such a great, great time in my life. Hold on, I just want to make sure that I don't go too far because it was a great time in my life. That is where I ended. I can't believe it's perfectly ending this. I would love to go on, but you know what? I don't want this to be too terribly long, so I'm going to stop right there right now. And I will read some more to you at another time. Okay. But anyway, I guess I just want to say this. I'm glad I got to read that chapter because right now, we're all going through some terrific and difficult times. A lot of us financially with weird, strange things going on that are out of the norm, above and beyond the normal, that's for sure. And, one thing that Dad and I, just this weekend, we went camping at Cascade Lake in Idaho. And we decided to talk about this one little line that we have on our refrigerator that says, God is the source of my supply. And then we always read it so that we are taught to read it this way, but then you emphasize the next word. God is the source of my supply. And then God is the source of my supply. And then God is the source of my supply. And then God is the source of my supply. And then God is the source of my supply. And when you say it, and then we'll say it again. So in times whenever they're strange or weird, or we're worried about the future or anything, we say that, and somehow it just lifts the burden because we remember who's in charge and who's always sustained us, and that we don't really have need for anything. And like you saw, if I even needed clothespins, God cared about it. So he does care very, very much. And we're not alone in this whole craziness that we're going through right now. So I was really glad I got to read that part in my book because it kind of fits with kind of where I was at this weekend. And so I'm glad I got to bring this to the fore. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed it. And again, you can get this book on Amazon, and Awakening from Unconscious Resentment by Angela Clark. And I use so many wonderful stories, which you didn't hear, not my stories, but many other people's stories. Anita Morjani, I talk about and hear about that, her, and Ella Bagiza, and the Buchenwald boys who were in the concentration camps. And there's so many great stories that I use as my explaining what I'm talking about throughout my book. So I really, really get down to the bottom of the resentment that we're having to overcome. And even though this wasn't so much about the deep resentment that we all go through, that's what this book's all about. It's about overcoming resentment in all the different areas of our lives. And I mean, every area. I go through it with a fine-tooth comb and really get us to get real about where we're stuck in these different areas of our lives. And once we get unstuck, we can really flow, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful life, and creativity flows then too. But when we're stuck in these different places, like in our churches, or maybe we're mad at the pastor, or we're mad at God even because of some things going on in the church, or we're mad at our parents and the way that they're treating us because we don't want to go do what they want us to do, or we're mad at ourselves even, and we resent ourselves because we keep getting it wrong and saying we're going to do something and then we don't, and then we give up on ourselves and we resent ourselves. And oh man, you guys, I hit every single area, trust me. But anyway, if you're interested, great. But if not, I hope you enjoyed this little excerpt from my chapter 11, and I look forward to doing it with you again. All right. Have a great rest of the day and have a good life. Over and out, Angela Clark.